Okay, today we're going to be multiplying polynomials with different powers of x. And I wanted to show you how even though we have the same numbers in the equation, the different powers of x gives you a completely different answer to those two equations. So to work these equations, we are going to be using the FOIL method. FOIL. The FOIL method stands for first, outside, inside, last. And that is the order in which you multiply the different factors in your equation. So the equation that we're going to use is 7x plus 3 times x minus 5. That's the first equation that we're going to use. And notice I just have the single x. I don't have any exponents on the x's. So to work this problem, you use the FOIL method. The first step is the F, the first. You take the first part of this equation and you multiply it by the first number in this part. So it's going to be 7x times x. And you know when you multiply x's, you get a squared. If both are just x, then you get 7x squared. Then the next step is the O in FOIL, outside. You multiply the outside numbers of this equation, which is 7x and 5. See, it's the outside numbers, and you have a positive 7x and a negative 5. You know when you multiply a positive times a negative, you get a negative number. So it's 7 times 5, 35, and you have the x here, so it's negative 35x. The next step is the I in FOIL, which stands for inside. This is where you take your equation and you use the two inside numbers, which is 3 and x. So you multiply the 3 times the x. They're both positive, gives you a positive. 3 times x is 3x. The next step in FOIL is last. You take the last number in this binomial, you multiply it by the last number in this one, which is positive 3 and negative 5. Positive and negative gives you a negative. 3 times 5 is 15. So now you have multiplied these two parts of the equation, but you have two numbers that have x's in it, so you need to simplify. You only have one x squared. So you keep that same x squared, 7x squared. You have a negative 35x plus a 3x. When you have two different signs, you take the sign of the largest and you subtract. You add 3 to negative 35, which will give you a negative 32x. Because you're subtracting, you're not multiplying, so you're subtracting, so it just keeps the x. And then you only have one number here, so you bring that number down. So there's nothing else to simplify here. So the answer to 7x plus 3 times x minus 5 is 7x squared minus 32x minus 15. Now I want to show you how just changing the power of this 1x and 7x, how it'll change your answer. So let's use 7x squared plus 3, see the 3 is the same, times x minus 5. That stays the same. So you do the same thing. You do your first step, which is the first. You take the first here, multiply it by the first number here, 7x squared times x. You have, when you multiply x's, you add, like this would be a 1, so you add the exponents. So that would give you 7x cubed. You do the next step, outside, 7x squared minus 5. You have a positive times a negative. Gives you a negative. 7 times 5, 35. You have the x squared here. So you don't have an x multiplying it here, but you just have that 1x squared. Then you go to your next step, inside, positive 3 times x. You have a positive 3 times x, 3x. Then you do the last, positive 3 times negative 5. A positive and a negative gives you a negative. 3 times 5 is 15. Now in this answer, this is simplified because you have an x cubed, an x squared, an x, and then just a number. So there's nothing to add or subtract in this. So this is your answer to this equation. And I did both to show you the difference between what one exponent on these x's, how different it would make the outcome of your answer. So this is how you multiply polynomials with different powers of x's. And if you can remember how to do the FOIL method, first, outside, inside, last, then you will be able to do any kind of these multiplication questions.